Welcome back to the Modern Game Podcast. It has been a bit of a while. We've got to start off with that. And we've decided, coming back from our own mid-season break, that we would talk today about mid-season breaks or not, or when the seasons restart and the chaos that is forming of the World Cup. And also the fact that people seem to be piling into players of a particular division at the moment, understanding that it does run through the World Cup, but actually when you look at it, maybe it doesn't deliver that much value. So anyway, lots to unpackage, lots to talk about, start dates, finish dates. But Josh, how are you? And to kick us off, what do you plan to do throughout the World Cup as a man who sat out summer? I'm intrigued to see how you're going to approach it.
Yeah, I'm good, thanks, mate. Like you say, it's been a minute, so thank you for listening again, if you are listening. But yeah, I think, the World Cup, what a great question. I'm just going to run a Netherlands stack, I think, providing Pasveer gets the gig as goalkeeper, which I'm not expecting, but it's looking, I don't want to say likely, but certainly possible now that it could happen. Obviously, he played the last two Nations League games, and before those games, Van Gaal was quite open that he was going to play players that were going to be playing at the World Cup in those games as World Cup prep, basically. And yeah, we saw some pretty strong Dutch teams. There was two teams. The first team was what I would expect as the World Cup 11, and then the second team was a few rotational pieces. Like Vincent Janssen started and Davy Klaassen started as well, and a few other players that you maybe expect to play bit parts at the World Cup started in that second game. But yeah, sort of key takeaway for me was that Pasveer started both games. So I think if he stays fit, which is always the big if with Remco Pasveer, I think these last 4 seasons he has had at least some injury breaks. So I am sort of expecting it. But if he stays fit for this last run of games up to the World Cup, I am quietly optimistic that he will get the gig. I then obviously have Daley Blind and Jurien Timber, who I'd run as the triple defensive stack. And I just think it, for the World Cup, that could be really strong because the Dutch group is really quite poor. And I know obviously we're not going to spend too much time today talking about the World Cup, but yeah, they do have a really nice group. And I was looking, actually, Simply Alex retweeted something which a chap, Dolce Sorare, I should actually quote the author of this piece of work. If you have a look at Simply Alex's retweets, Techers, you will be able to find it as well. But he basically, this Dolce chap has sorted all of the games into game weeks for the World Cup. And the first game week, which would be game week 324, there's only 5 fixtures and Netherlands is one of them. And they play Senegal. So the only issue is that Argentina also play in that group, and they play Saudi Arabia by the looks of things. So yeah, I expect those two teams to do really well that opening game week.
It's a really thin game week.
It is, yeah, exactly. I've got literally 5 games playing.
Yeah, I was going to say, I've got it mapped out on the calendar, and there's really not a lot. And I think this is the one thing that I think a load of people are overlooking. Is they're like, oh, I'm getting my World Cup team ready, and it's like, we don't actually need one. You probably need 3,
yeah,
because there's not much correlation in terms of who plays with who. And if you look at it in terms of game weeks, and make sure I am correct here, but where are they? Netherlands, are they all the way down here? So many teams in the calendar now. They basically go the first week, Senegal, 1 game week in Sorare break, and then Ecuador and Qatar back to back.
Yeah.
Whereas, you look at Portugal, for example, they're not in that first week. Then they are in the second week. Ghana followed by Uruguay, and again, game weeks, Sorare, not physical weeks. They got a space, and then South Korea. So it's actually, unless you're running full nation stacks, it's going to be really difficult to line up and correlate. And I think this is one thing that people are massively overlooking at the moment, is it's not just having 5 good players for the World Cup. You ultimately need to think about this overlap, and a lot of the stronger teams don't have it. So maybe it is Argentina, Netherlands is 1 pairing, and I think looking at what the pairings are could be really, really interesting in terms of deciding who do you actually go with.
Yeah, that's a really good point, actually. I think like Netherlands defense, Argentina attack, obviously if you have unlimited budget or are playing limited or both, is like could be really favorable. For me, I still need to pick up like a consistent Netherlands midfielder.
Is there one?
And a full. I was going to say there really isn't. And
Netherlands mirror
and forward.
Ajax, like
Yeah.
you know, good defense, good attack. You know, from a Sorare perspective, you're like, where's the midfielder?
Yeah, it really is quite thin. And also, like, I still don't know if. Well, I guess Van Gaal does know, but I don't know who's going to play. Like, is it going to be like? Obviously, it looks like it's not going to be Gravenberg, which at the start of the season I would have thought would have been like the sort of the first name that was going to play, but he doesn't.
He really
like,
should have stayed, shouldn't he? He should have stayed another
honestly.
6 months until the World Cup. Like,
it just
it's
seems
wild.
ridiculous now. But yeah, like, is it going to be? So then, is it going to be Kenny Taylor? Is it going to be Berghaus? Is it going to be Klaassen? Is it going to be Koop Miners? Like, you know, there is, and obviously there's going to be 3 midfield spots. So, you know, I don't know who's going to play, to be honest. But I'll probably just buy a selection. And obviously Berghaus has a forward card only in Sorare as well, so that sort of takes out a little bit. But yeah, I'll probably buy a selection, and then my big choice is who I buy to play up front. It's probably either going to be Gakpo or Bergwijn. I'm leaning towards Bergwijn because I can see Gakpo going in January, basically, given his interest, the interest he had in the summer.
So you're going full Netherlands stack.
I will be, yeah, and I just because I think it's going to be the most optimal strategy, like you say, with the game week, like how the game weeks line up.
Yeah.
Either like, you know, finding a good pair, like we've said with say Netherlands or Argentina. And you might also be able to do it with. I'm trying to think who actually has goalkeepers on World Cup teams as well. Obviously, Portugal and France do, and Germany. But does Brazil? Who plays in goal for Brazil? Ederson or Alisson?
Both.
Yeah,
like, it doesn't seem to be.
Sure.
I mean, to be honest, I've not followed the last couple, but I remember seeing in the past that there hasn't been, you know, there's been a job share going on.
It's so like obviously we're assuming that and this actually has a big impact on U23 weeks as well, doesn't it? Because we're assuming that the Porto goalkeeper Diego Costa is going to be the only U23 GK at the World Cup. Am I right in assuming that?
Yeah.
So
if he
obviously
starts.
Yeah, and again, like, you know, there has been some question marks. Obviously, he did start the last 2 Nations League games, but there were some. So I'm pretty sure he's going to start. But there was some chatter that he might not, and Patricia might come back in. So, yeah, obviously we're, you know, U23 game weeks. As much as people have said like, oh, I'm not playing for U23 for the World Cup because I'm not going to be able to afford Diego Costa. Like, there are game weeks where Diego Costa isn't playing. And there are going to be no eligible GKs for the World Cup in U23. The U23 tournament is still going to run. So if you want to play U23 at the World Cup, then play it. But just play it on the game weeks where Portugal don't have a game. Like, everyone's going to be playing with 4 players. You know, it's going to be the same for everybody.
So here's a wild one for you.
Unless the Segunda division is playing, of course, on the same day. Yes.
League 2. Etienne Green's resurgence incoming. I mean, so just having a look now, 328 and 329 League 2 play. So St Etienne have a couple of fixtures there. So that's going to overlap, you know, games that you have in that week. You've got like Belgium, Morocco. We've got who else is this? Like Cameroon are playing. Argentina playing Mexico that week. England.
Which game week is this? Sorry,
3. I've got it.
326.
Yeah. So what's really interesting is that first week, the week commencing the 18th.
Yep, 326.
To my knowledge, the only other countries that are playing, interestingly, is the Segunda division. I needed to map this out because what has been really interesting is that, like, some of the Segunda division players have absolutely pumped, and people are like, "Oh, Segunda play all the way through the World Cup. Those are the stacks you need. You can compete." And I'm like, "Okay, well, let's hold on a moment because we don't actually know how many prizes are going to be up for grabs."
Yeah,
but also, Segunda doesn't run all the way through, and this is what's really interesting: is they've basically got a slightly different offset running order. So Segunda has a round of fixtures on game week commencing the 18th, which I have as 326.
Yep.
They then have a game week break, which is obviously the midweek, and then they come back again the following weekend for game week commencing the 25th of November. They then have another 1 week break, come back the following weekend, and then play 3 in a row. So they will map up with the group stages and the round of 16.
Yep.
What is really interesting is that game week 3 to 8, League 2 is running as well. So suddenly, out of nowhere, after his double sending off, Etienne Green suddenly becomes an option for that week if people want to play under 23s, which I thought was really interesting because, everyone's been talking about Segunda, but actually League 2 runs as well. So it's actually really interesting. And what I quite like about that is actually there's so many licensed teams now that it should lift the number of prizes. So there's a couple of these World Cup game weeks. And I honestly, I've been so busy with work the past couple of weeks, I've not had a chance to map it out. But when I looked at it, I was like, I don't really have a World Cup team, like other than like Hwang In-bom, who'll play for South Korea. Like there's nothing really that exciting in my gallery. I could be wrong, but there's nothing that immediately jumps out as being like, oh, that's a World Cup, like a core of a World Cup team. Yeah, I might have a World Cup underdog. That's what I'm hoping for. I think Sorare should put an underdog in because goalkeepers are going to be the squeeze. Like, remember last time they did it, like you could play with one common. Right, but then that just meant that people that had meta commons were just cleaning up. Like people were playing like with names as captains and like just trashing everyone. So I looked at it today and I was adding up, building out some of the maps, and I was like, okay, this is quite interesting because suddenly, like, we've obviously got the second division starting this weekend, this coming week 3-1-2. I just feel there's going to be a real ramp up in interest in them, and it's quite interesting for me is that actually there might be an opportunity to play someone that I've already got, like Mikazadze, who could run in under 23, along with maybe some of the players that I've possibly overlooked that I have in my gallery that might sneak into a World Cup squad. But I honestly don't think, like, we could kind of guess at it now based on the squads, but I really do wonder how many under 23s are there going to be playing at the World Cup. There's really not going to be a lot. Like one of the sleepers, I reckon, is going to be the guy Moses Casado, who's at Brighton, but like plays for Ecuador. It's going to be people like that like everyone's like, oh, it's just Mbappe and Costa, and then like you'll have like one of the not Argentina and Brazil South American sides like just play young players and absolutely smash. So that's what I think is really interesting. I mean, Japan and Korea, both of their coaches tend to be quite conservative and play older players. So I'm really not expecting many coming out there. But yeah, I think it's an interesting one with under 23 because I just don't think that there's going to be that many strong options. And then it makes it kind of a weird dynamic if they, everyone's hyped for the World Cup and people are running like hybrids of Saint Etienne and Levante.
Yeah. Yeah, that is going to be fun, isn't it?
So I'm looking forward to Twitter. Now I'm back on Twitter with my, multi-account.
Oh, well done.
I'm looking forward to watching, the fireworks when that happens because, judging by the prices of some of these Segunda Division players, people seem to be really, really lumping into them. But then the thing that I look at it is like, it's like 2 or 3 game weeks, and we don't know what the prizes are going to be. So, like, for you, you're like, I've already got a core of a Netherlands squad.
Yeah, sort of makes sense.
If you sign Bergwijn, you can still use him afterwards. So it's like actually just like a sensible step for your gallery long term. And I think this is why I'm in slightly different mindset because I'm like, I'm not just going to buy a squad for the World Cup. Like, it's just not going to happen. Like, if I can throw together an underdog of like what I have in my gallery, then happy days. But I'm not going to be, pumping into it unless they have some interesting, like, specialist limited or underdog limited or something like that I can just sort of buy for a game week and play along with. But I think Sorare will do quite a lot around it, but I struggle to get excited about something without knowing like what the prizes are. Absolutely. And what's going to happen.
Yeah, I think like going back to my thoughts now, I'm not really buying like people. I've never bought players with the World Cup in mind. Like, you know, it hasn't ever been a priority for me, and I would be quite content to sit the period out, to be honest. But yeah, I think it just sort of makes sense to me if I have the 3 Netherlands players, and like I do have Klaassen and Taylor already as well, so I may well have one of the midfielders that play, and you know, to one thing I am lacking in my general SO5 teams is a reliable Ajax forward, because Robbie is on the bench quite often as well. So yeah, when I make my Bergwijn pickup, because I don't quite have enough ETH currently, but when I do it won't be because he's playing for Netherlands. It'll be because I think he's going to rip up for Ajax, basically. But yeah, I thought
you had Tadic. For some reason, I
do not.
You had Tadic.
I've never had Tadic. It's one of my bigger regrets, to be honest, on the platform. But yeah, no, never had him. I had Haller obviously last season. But yeah, no Dusan, unfortunately. But yeah, I think that's probably as much as we can say on the World Cup for now, isn't it, really? Because, like you say, we don't know the prizes. We know the fixture dates. That game week commencing the 25th, which we believe is 3-8. That is going to be quite a big game week then, isn't it? Because that's got the most World Cup games in, and also the Segunda and League 2 running at the same time as well.
Yeah,
absolutely. So that is going to be like your bumper game week. So if Sorare were to do like a big competition, it's probably going to be for that one, I guess. But yeah, I think the other ones, some of the game weeks look really thin. Like you mentioned, the opening game week, which is the 18th of November, 326, we think. That looks like a really, really, really thin game week. So yeah, like you say, without really knowing the prizes on offer, it does become a little difficult to plan, I think, for
it does. You see, this is the thing. It's thin in terms of fixtures, and also thin in terms of what we know of availability at this moment in time. But what's quite interesting is I know the number of licensed clubs listed has jumped again.
Yes.
So we've definitely got more to come in the coming weeks. Sorry?
More of something coming.
More of something coming. But also I know it's like it was publicized previously that Sorare had signed a contract with Argentina.
Yes.
AFA. So, you know, Argentina coming, I think is going to be quite exciting. I imagine that, you know, Emi Martinez is probably going to be the starting goalkeeper, and he's probably going to be fairly popular of people lumping into at the last minute building World Cup squads.
For sure.
But, you know, I think like from a marketing perspective, it's such a huge opportunity with Sorare. And, you know, actually like partnering with the World Cup itself is just going to be like insanely expensive. But like it's interesting that Sorare have already gone down what I think is a really smart route of licensing the nations.
Yeah.
So if you think about who we've got already, is Belgium, Germany, definitely. Oh, Belgium, Germany, France are the 3 they have so far, right? I think that's who we've seen countries for in the past. We then have Argentina coming soon, based on the fact that they've both announced that they've signed a contract. So, you know, that's going to be coming at some point. It also might explain, I think we haven't seen PSG yet, have we? And we haven't seen, obviously, we haven't seen like, you know, Messi SR super rares or Messi uniques. So it'd be really interesting in what's probably going to be his last World Cup. I imagine a, you know, Argentina Messi card for people that are more collectible inclined is probably going to be very, very much in demand. Particularly when you look at their group. I think they've been given a, you know, quite a gift. I also think that, you know, Argentina and Brazil coming into this tournament are looking really dangerous. Like for so many years, Argentina seemed to be like a starting 11 of 7 forwards, you know, 1 defender and like a loose midfield. Whereas then their midfield now seems to be very, very capable with who they have in there. And it actually, you know, you've sort of seen that in some of their performances recently. So I think this could be really, really exciting to see how they play. But, you know, I do wonder, I think, you know, it's obviously been on the calendar for so long. I do wonder what other nations Sorare might pull out of the bag between now and the start of the World Cup. Not only does it give us more opportunity to play, but it gives us opportunity to win prizes. Like, you know, if you can win, like, you know, I know it's not going to be World Cup edition, but, you know, you can win like the nation participating in the World Cup. I think it could be quite exciting, because I do remember at the Euros, they did give out some pretty good prizes.
It was ridiculous, Tex. They gave like it wasn't even like for first place. It was like for the top 10 places, I think, in in the rare pro divisions, they were giving out rare card, like an addition. They were giving the normal rare prize and then an additional nations, you know, National League, card of the player's nation. So yeah, it like if you had a competitive team, it was really good, but there just were so few prizes. So if you didn't have a very competitive team, like you weren't winning anything, were you really? So
no, because I believe they had Copa America at the same time, didn't they? So it's basically everyone's like, I'm building my Euros team, and then you got smashed by Neymar every week.
Yeah, yeah. Cheers for coming.
Yeah, exactly. No, I do remember that. That was like Neymar was like the guy to have then. Was like I think he just ripped hundreds for most games. And it was basically he was unplayable. So, yeah, I think the PSG stackers are going to be excited about World Cup. That's for sure.
Yep, indeed.
Yeah. Who else do you think has a good group? Like, who's your sort of have you thought much about who could go far in the World Cup?
Not massively, to be honest. Like I say, I haven't really given it too much thought. I think obviously, like the standout ones in the group stage look to be Netherlands and Argentina. I think, like that, like obviously Argentina have Saudi Arabia, for instance, like which just seems ridiculous. And obviously they do. I mean, Mexico could put up a decent fight against them. They also have Poland, which you never quite know what Lewandowski could do, but. Yeah, obviously Spain and Germany being drawn in the same group is not going to do either of their players' SO5 like choices particularly great. But obviously Germany, they do also have Japan and Costa Rica in that group as well. So that versus those teams, that could look quite favourable. And in terms of who I think could go far, I'm not. Oh wow, France actually have Australia and Tunisia in their group, don't they, as well, and Denmark.
Yeah, France have got a good one.
Yeah. So yeah, I think the answer is I'm not really sure. I think actually, the that France group looks very tasty, and obviously we did have. I presume Lloris is still number one. We do have 60 rare cards of Hugo Lloris.
Yeah, I think he is. I think Magnan might have been pushing him close, but then he's got himself injured, hasn't he? So.
Let's just have a look. Oh, he actually didn't play the last two Nations League games. Areola did, but actually wasn't Lloris injured for those games?
Yeah, I think he was injured, and then Magnan was given a chance, and then he got himself injured, and then Areola came in.
Yes, that looks about right. So yeah, I mean, obviously, well, we are gonna, unless Areola actually does Areola have cards as well? But unless Areola plays, like we are going to have the French goalkeeper and obviously the French defenders on the platform as well.
Well, you would have thought as well they're going to like they're not going to waste that license. Surely they're going to have another run of players once the squad's announced. Like they will get on. They will have to get on that minting really quickly once the squads are announced. Mint the new players that are selected that weren't in the Euro squad.
Yeah.
The other one interesting. I know it's not like a standout group, but Croatia are in with Morocco, Canada, and Belgium.
Yeah,
like that seems like it's not a terrible group there.
Yeah, Portugal, obviously with Korea and Ghana as well, are not bad either.
And then, I mean, Brazil, Serbia, Switzerland, Cameroon.
It's going to be good fun, isn't it?
Advice to anyone that wants to play the World Cup: sign Messi and Neymar.
Yes.
Yeah, Messi. I mean, what would be your dream team? Money, no object. You're a complete degen that's building a team for the World Cup and only the World Cup. Who are you buying?
Without thinking about fixture correlation or anything like that, just literally 5 best players.
Just 5. Yeah.
Oh crikey! Who's going to be good defensively? I think I'd probably. Okay, so I think I'll go. Courtois in goal. I think, yeah. But that would mean I'd normally pick a Belgian defender, but I'm not going to do that. So I'll go Courtois, and then who are France going to have playing in defence?
I mean, big question there. That they've got they are so deep with good centre backs.
Yes, they are. Let's have a quick look here. So yeah, Courtois in goal, I think, because I think Belgium have like the best chance of keeping clean sheets in their group of the goalkeepers that are on Sorare. Like I would, to be honest, maybe it's just best to go Allison if Allison's going to play, because I can't. Like Switzerland maybe could pose Brazil some problems, but Serbia and Cameroon are just going to play ridiculously defensively against them, aren't they? Yeah. Okay. So I think I'm going Allison and Marquinhos, and then in midfield I'm definitely running 2 forwards. So in midfield I'm playing Kevin De Bruyne, and then up front I'm playing Messi and Neymar. That would be the 5 for me, I think.
That would be the dream, wouldn't it? Yeah. I was actually leaning towards Courtois immediately when you were speaking, and then I was like, "Oh, defensive pairings."
Yeah, it just doesn't work. Does it?
I'm gonna spend 3 ETH on Courtois and then 0.1 ETH on Thomas Vermaelen.
Yeah, and then by Zeno de Bast or something like that.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, I was hoping Hannes Delcroix would make a late run, but he seems to be out.
Bombed out, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's been bombed out at Anderlecht. So maybe it is Courtois, Vertonghen, De Bruyne, Messi, Neymar.
I mean, that wouldn't be bad either.
No.
But yeah, I think KDB is probably the midfielder shout with that group, isn't he?
Yeah.
You can get one of his 45 rare cards with a floor of 9.9 ETH, but there you go.
Is that how much? I find it wild. Like some of these cards, like they released, and then we've had other international breaks since, and they've not released anymore. And I'm like, why? Like the De Bruyne demand would be insane.
Yeah, it seems like it really does seem like they're missing out on free money there. Like 45 De Bruyne. I mean, we've had him on the platform for what, like over a year now. We've got 45 rare cards, no limiteds, obviously. So, like, yeah, 5 super rares. Just does seem very light, doesn't it? About half the allocation they could have.
Yeah. Sorry, I've got distracted.
That's okay.
I'm getting update on Enzo Lefebvre's scores. He's managed to get himself in 60 minutes 43 points AA against Lille.
Wow.
He's absolutely crushing at this moment. I was actually disappointed because there was talk of him going to Nice in the summer, and I was disappointed that he didn't move because I thought it was a stronger team. And then Lorient have started the season like nobody would believe. They're like 3rd, I think, at the moment.
Yeah.
Just absolutely crushing. Anyway, that's not what we're here to talk about. I'm getting distracted. I'm getting distracted by my live teams after my team's complete capitulation overnight. Did you see? Honestly, like
Kai Wagner.
The order in which that happened as well. Like I've never been in that strong a position.
Yeah.
Going into because Cecilia, it was a bold play to captain him because he's only just come back from injury. But I was like, no, you know what? He's going good. I'm going to trust him. He comes in 90-point score. Eduardo, I was like, oh, does he play? Doesn't he play? But I'm going to risk him 90-point score. Even Gil got tipped himself into a 90-point score in like the 87th minute. And I'm going to bed thinking, oh, you know what? Wagner and Blake have conceded like 4 goals all season. I've got a good chance of a clean sheet here. And then they've just completely fallen apart. I can't believe it. Like I got upper threshold from 2 players. and then I get 15 points from the last 2. Like it was just devastating. So anyway, I want Enzo to bring some kind of salvation to this game week.
Yeah, I'm not sure there's any salvating my game week, to be honest.
It's been a weird one, isn't it?
Oh, so bad. My highest scoring player is 82, which is Guido Bergstaller. But like, I've just had so much trash. It's been actually unbelievable. Like Ajax conceding, Callum McGregor red cards. Yeah. Anyway, probably best not to speak about.
Moving on.
Yeah, moving very swiftly on. Did you want to chat about runs up into the break, or are we just looking at the break itself?
Yeah, no, I think so. I think it's like it feels like, it's. I think it's just really interesting in this sort of like how the World Cup has affected everything. because I just sort of, the observation, I know I sent it to you earlier, but we'll talk about that afterwards, because the run after the World Cup is actually just as interesting.
Yeah.
But, you know, the run up to the World Cup, you know, the one that I'm really excited about is Argentina. Like, Argentina seem to be playing every game week for like the next 6 game weeks. So you've got a couple of these midweeks where, you know, you've got your Champions League and your Europa League sides, and then you've got Argentina running as well. And most of my recent prizes that Sorare have given me seem to have been Argentine under 23. So like, out of nowhere, I've got so many options, which I think is really, really exciting. And that's like, you know, of all the like what's coming up, I'm basically the most excited about that. And then oddly, in game week 315, the Pro League in Belgium has a week where they just run by themselves.
Really?
So yeah, so that's the one it was kind of like, I've always been quite strong in Belgium.
Yeah.
And particularly now that I've got Heinen and also bought Dino Hotic last week as well.
Right.
That week really stands out for me, because I think if everyone's fit, I can run a under 23 rare and a global or challenger rare pro, which I'll be quite excited about.
Yeah, that sounds nice.
I love these short weeks.
I see Switzerland are playing as well.
And I've worked quite hard on it. So like, I know we talked previously about like, you know, targeting midweeks, but also a lot of my gallery now is like Belgium, Argentina, MLS. So it's like when you get those odd weeks where it's like just them playing, I tend to do quite well just because of correlation. So yeah, I think I'd be really interested to like hear what you're excited about. But for me, those are the weeks that I've sort of really marked out on my calendar, are these essentially 311, 313, 315 are all these like midweeks where either Argentina or Belgium are playing. And then on the 311 and 313, we've also got the Champions League and all of those going as well. So yeah, I think it's quite exciting mix up, because that's the thing, like the World Cup has squished all the fixtures in. So as long as you can stay on top of like teams and make sure you're hot on the injury news and likelihood of playing, I just think that they provide an excellent opportunity. You know, you can pick the rotation and avoid that. You know, if teams will actually let you know who's available. AZ, thank you for trashing my team this weekend and not mentioning that Jens Odegaard wasn't available, but you know, we'll let that one slip.
Yeah, I think I hadn't really looked at the game weeks that quite far in advance. I think the ones that I think there's one coming up. I think it's like 3-2-2 or 3-2-4. Oh no, that must be. So yeah, one very close to the start of the World Cup. There's one where like only Croatia is playing and Switzerland, if I remember correctly. So I'm particularly looking forward to that one. I don't know if you can see it if you have the calendar up. Should be quite close to the World Cup. On, I think it could be a midweek. Hang on, let me get the Zagreb fixture up.
That's all right. There's also one where Scotland. I've got it as 3-2-1. There's a game week where Scotland are playing. Is it that one?
Let me just grab this. So I'm gonna have a quick look at the Dynamo Zagreb fixtures. I'm sure there is a game week where it's literally like just Croatia and might be Denmark or Switzerland, one of the two. Is it this 12th of November?
Yeah, so there's loads playing that week. That's like the last week that everyone plays.
Oh, maybe I'm wrong then. I was sure.
So is that the week that they play Rijeka?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, everyone's playing that week. That's a huge week.
I'm sure there is one. I don't know exactly when it is. Anyway, I hadn't really looked into like which particular game weeks I was particularly planning for. I suppose more what I was thinking was teams with favourable matchups running into the World Cup. So teams that I were looking at, if listeners, I think like obviously when you have the nice juicy L5 numbers, players are a lot more saleable, and if you have a nice favourable run of fixtures, then people, players can get those nice L5s. I'm gonna look at Russia to start with, of course, being myself. But Spartak Moscow actually have a really favourable run up until the World Cup now. So they play Nizhny, Krylia, Khimki, Torpedo, and Sochi all in the next 7 game weeks.
Yeah.
The other 2 games are Siska and Loco. I mean, Siska's quite a lot harder. Loco are very hit and miss at the minute. But like someone like Quincy Promes, it could very well explode again in these next few games. He had 300s in 5 game weeks not so long ago, and we could very well see a similar run to that, I think. The other 2 I picked out, the first one was Rapid Vienna. So they had a really tough run of fixtures, but now have Austria Vienna at home, Austria Klagenfurt at home, Hartberg at home, Austria Lustenau. They play Hartberg away as well, all up until the World Cup. Yeah. They'd also have Reed in that period as well.
Their run is bright green. I'm looking on my XG data at the moment.
But yeah,
their run really for me is fixtures. Bright green. So is Ajax, Alkmaar, and Feyenoord. Yes. And PSV, to be fair. Like the Dutch sides have got some run into the World Cup.
They're all playing each other, though, aren't they? For like one odd game week. I know AZ are playing Feyenoord and Ajax are playing PSV. There's a Klassiker in there.
Yeah.
The one team that doesn't have any, apart from this game week coming 3-12, is doesn't have any particularly bad fixtures is Twente. Twente play Groningen, Camber, Walwick, Go Ahead, and Sparta before the World Cup. So they've got like literally a run of 6 games where they are really favourable, in my opinion. But yeah, you're right. Quite a lot of the Volendam seem to have like a run from hell up until now because they're playing like Ajax, PSV, and Feyenoord in the next 7 games, which just seems ridiculous. But yeah,
the other one that's actually really quite interesting to me is Anderlecht have a pretty solid run, but also Ghent. So Ghent's an interesting one because I know we both got caught by surprise by the Paul Nardi transfer to Ghent, absolutely within the last 4 hours of the transfer window. Thank you very much. But I actually degened into Nardi, and now it seems to be that Rope's playing some, Nardi's playing some. So I'm intrigued to see if Nardi wins the spot, because I can't imagine he would have joined having not been given some assurances of playing time, and just the odd midweek in the Conference League probably isn't where he sees himself long term. So I'm intrigued to see what happens after the international break, and whether the international break was the opportunity that the manager needed to decide who he wants as his number 1. Because Ghent have a run, like whoever's playing for them, because they're playing all these midweeks as well, because they've got their they've got their Conference League midweeks,
group, haven't they?
Yeah, and then they've got that midweek where it's only Belgium. So it's actually like they play now. Basically, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There's 12 game weeks between now and the break for the World Cup, and Ghent have matches in 11 of them. Oof.
Grab yourself a Sven Coombs, because he plays every minute of every game, doesn't he?
He does. They do love a Sven Coombs down at Ghent. So yeah, it's some interesting ones. I mean, you've covered the Russian ones. I won't even bother talking about Celtic because their fixtures are always easy. I mean, some other interesting ones here is, Trabzonspor is mixed. Fenerbahce's look fairly decent, as do Galatasaray, but Galatasaray signed like an entire new team on deadline day. So trying to pick who actually will play for them is the nightmare at the moment. Have a look. Oh, I love this. Scanning through, I'm just looking at I've got it color coded, so I'm looking at who's all green. I'm like, who's that? Oh, Bayern. Ignore. There we go. PSG, bright green. Yeah. Okay. Well, the data's not lying, but also we're not adding any value if we tell people that PSG and Bayern have good fixtures. Well, exactly. Okay, so if that's it coming up to the World Cup, I really want to talk about what I realised today.
Let's go post.
Is what happens after the World Cup. And what really blew my mind is that the new season of the MLS starts a week after Austria and before Russia restarts, which is just
Yeah,
wild.
that's
Like,
crazy.
I didn't realize, like I was like, oh yeah, it'll be sooner this year because of the World Cup. And then I put it on the calendar and I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. Yeah, I mean, I like I have quite a lot of MLS players, and their price has really fallen a lot
Yeah.
recently. Not selling Gill at 4 ETH and watching him dwindle down to 1 was probably one of the decisions I regret. But I do think that I like to think that I'm quite on top of the calendar and knowing who plays when, and that like caught me by surprise. So I feel that that's actually quite valuable for a lot of people, because I think that that means that we will see an increase in the MLS prices, like sort of when the World Cup break goes.
Yep.
Basically, when we break for the World Cup is when people are going to start looking at going, okay, well, how do I plan for post World Cup?
Yes. Yeah.
And MLS restarts in Feb. Like I said, just after Austria's winter break and just before Russia's,
so soon,
which is really soon. So I think that that's going to be one that really starts ramping up, and people are going to sort of start jumping back in, because you really did see it last season. Like MLS more than other leagues, I think, and Asia does it. I didn't see it as much in Challenger, certainly not in Champion.
yeah.
If you see these like peaks and troughs
Yeah.
of people jumping out to have their Threshy team in Challenger, and then they go, oh, actually, you know what? I can get better value Threshold team in MLS. And it just, it really caught me by surprise how soon it comes back. So I was like, okay, well, that locks my mind up. I was like, do I sell some MLS cards to free up some ETH? And now I'm like, well, actually, no, I'm probably just going to hold on to them, because I think that there's going to be a bit of a run on them in actually, what are we talking? Probably six weeks, 7 weeks is when people will start getting into that mindset again.
I think the bottom's already gone, hasn't it? Like, I think we've quite clearly seen the bottom's gone.
Yeah.
Hang on, let me just have a quick look at Gill's graph, because I think loads of people are saying, it always makes me laugh when people say this. Oh, the MLS bottom isn't here yet. It's going to be here just before the World Cup, or it's going to be here.
No, I think it's already started picking back up again.
If everyone thinks that the bottom's going to be just before the World Cup, it will be before that. Like, if everyone thinks, oh, I'm going to start buying MLS cards now because it should be the bottom, then it's not. It's going to have been and gone, because if everyone thinks that, then the price is obviously going to be inflated. One thing I've been doing with my gallery is starting to buy some Eliteserien players, because they obviously their season runs in the summer, so I will be able to play some summer Challenger, which I'm very much looking forward to.
Who are you? Are you going full Rosenborg stack, or are you holding off because they're going to probably transfer in the winter?
Yeah, so I did buy Sater because I think he's by far the safest option for forwards and is really consistent and good. But he is the only Rosenborg player I got. I've obviously got my Simon Juklerod unique. So he plays for Valenraga and takes their set pieces. And quite happy with him. I've got a Martin Lins, who plays for Mulder. Mulder are the best team in the Eliteserien. I actually think he's really undervalued, but obviously his
Mulder aren't licensed, right?
Not, yeah. He transferred from Galatasaray.
Okay, yeah, because I was going to say I see this all the time. Like, it baffles me how overlooked players are if they're not currently auctioned. People just forget about them. Like, I was looking the other day. One example, and I'm going to have to make this purchase now before this pod comes out.
Yeah,
is Pozuelo of Miami. He's gone from Toronto to Miami, and people seem to have forgotten about him. So he's trading now around 0.4. L15 in the 60s will be, Inter Miami have historically been shite. But he's going to be their go-to guy next season. It baffles me how low he is when you consider his production isn't far off others who are probably twice his price. Right. But it just happens so many times. You see it like out of mint, either out of mint, or the other ones that I do love are when a player has multiple positions. So like I grabbed Dino Hotic this week. Dino Hottage's original cards are forward, and they, like, as a forward, he is an absolute smasher. As a midfielder, not so great because he loses possession more often, gets hit, more by the matrix points that you see on a midfielder, like playing wide.
Yeah.
So his price has been dragged down because the midfielder is now what's being sold, and there's lower demand for the midfielder. But someone had priced the super rare like 3x the last sale of the midfielder, not the last sale of the forward. And I was like, okay, on it, I'm grabbing that. But yeah, I do find it like really odd when you get these players, because like Victor Claesson as well. Like, I know he's had a bit more hype, but like he's another one of these ones that's like transferred into a league, isn't minted, and actually when you look at their production versus their price, they just tend to be quite undervalued because people aren't seeing them coming through the auction, and you don't get that auction to like reset because like, actually I just mentioned him earlier, but Enzo Lefebvre is a really good example. Is his last super rare sale was 1.5 ETH. His last rare sale is now getting close to 1 ETH, but there hasn't been a super rare sale, nor has there been a super rare auction to sort of reset that last sale. So I almost now want another auction to come through to see like where it goes
what
to.
The true value is.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you tend to get this sort of warped valuation when it's not in auction, because when it's in auction, you can get a couple of managers that want to, both want the card and want to go at it, and they sort of push that further up. So yeah, I think it's quite intriguing. This, and yeah, you're making me want to go and scout some players from Norway.
So I think Martin Linz is like probably the most undervalued player in the league, really. Like, and one, just because he plays for Mold, but really I think he's just going to be really good. And quite a few of his historic scores, like the ones we see on Sorare data, like there's quite a few of them which like are not complete opt coverage, so he's literally just got the points for clean sheet or something like that, and like his old AA isn't showing, so the L40 isn't quite correct. So yeah, I just think he's a bit better than his value is now. Really, I think you can get him for like 0.1 as a rare. So, and there's only 48 rares as well. So I think that's gonna, like, when it comes around to April or whenever their season is going to start, I presume it's still going to be April. I just can't see him being a 0.1 player. Like, he's got to be more than that, in my opinion. Yeah. But yeah, like I've just been, and I just want to get ahead of the game. Basically, I don't think some people realize that the Eleta Siren runs April to December, or whatever it is. I'm pretty sure it's April to December. And yeah, just try and I will buy some Rosenborg players. I am holding off a little bit. I don't really want to have to buy the Rosenborg goalkeeper because he's terrible from an SO5 perspective. So I am going to get some Rosenborg players, probably the more offensive ones, and then they ship quite a few goals, to be honest. But hopefully Bodo Glimt or Mold get licensed, and I can jump on one of their goalkeepers. But I think if they are going to do that, they're probably going to do that more in the start of next year rather than now. Yeah,
that's fair.
But we're talking quite a long way after the World Cup now, aren't we? I suppose your MLS was a lot closer, I guess. Apologies for that. But yeah, no, I was surprised very much by how late Russia come back. Like, it's in really March. Late. It's in March, which seems ridiculous. It's like a 4-month break.
Yeah, absolutely. I was really surprised by that. I mean, I've had it in the calendar for a while. Like, I always like to plan a really long time ahead, but it just really surprised me looking at it this week. I think I've not been in it day to day over the last couple of weeks because work's been a bit busier, and it's sort of like looking at it this morning to prep for this call. I was like, oh, okay, wow, that's it's just interesting. Again, it all depends on like how the we're running at the moment is like the golden period, because it's all leagues playing full reward stack. But I do think that it will be quite interesting. And you say that obviously Challenger will be running through the summer, even if it is just the Alisteren. So if you've got a strong, you think about like the advantage you had of getting in early and building up the XP on your Russian cards.
Exactly.
If you do that now with the Elaptisterin, then when that time comes around, you're in a really good position.
Yeah, I do want to I want to be able to utilize my Duke Lord Unique, so I guess I'm going to have to play Super Air Division, which isn't going to be much fun. But it doesn't really, like, unless they bring back the kickoffs, which I really hope they do, but it doesn't look like they're going to. Like, unique kickoff with him would be really favorable instead, because I could just buy those limited cards instead of those Super Airs and have lots of liquidity, and that would be good fun. But yeah, obviously, like, did they only run those competitions once? They were really good fun.
Yeah, they did. It's interesting. They're definitely gravitating towards limited competitions, aren't they? Like, they've just put the limited kickoff. It's just come back in.
Yeah.
So it's difficult, isn't it? Because it's like, I can see why they're doing it, because they want to encourage more managers, entry-level managers to participate, but it does create a bit of a warping of the competitions. I saw someone won like Kimmich. Did you see that the other week? They won Kimmich in limited specialist, which
Specialist
I'm like, which
wild.
is nuts, really, when you consider.
And one player won Messi as well, and his gallery was great. It was like a 1 ETH gallery that he won Messi with. So he had like these limited cards adding up to 1 ETH, and then this rare Messi. So his gallery value like six-folded overnight with that reward, and is still going up if he's held him. But that it does seem a bit wild, and especially considering how bad the specialist rare is. Like, obviously, we've spoke about this to death, I think, but they've added in now the tier 2 rares, which I was saying to Sean Newsham, like, I was doing a rundown of the tournaments with him, and I was like, and specialist rare goes from being the worst tournament on the platform to the worst tournament on the platform with the addition of some tier 2 rares, because it doesn't move the needle enough, does it really? But
I'd love to know if people who have won a big ticket item on Specialist Limited who were limited only managers before, if they've stepped into rare, or they've just made their limited side stronger,
or they've just cashed out the rare and tried to win again.
Exactly. And this is the thing, is like, because what I do wonder about this is, it was all designed to, like, they're giving away the tier above to help you step up.
Yeah.
But if people aren't stepping up, then there's no reason why you shouldn't. Like, Specialist Limited gives you the opportunity to win the best limiteds. Specialist Rare gives you the opportunity to win the best rares. Super Rare, like, it's within the same scarcity, because it gives managers who maybe aren't competing in all-star rare, for example, because they haven't got the strongest players, it gives them an opportunity to strengthen in the division they're already in. I do like the sort of this like fallacy of progression. Like, I do wonder if anyone's actually progressing, where they're just going, you know what, limited special is the best ROI on the platform, I'm just going to keep on buying lottery tickets for that. Anyway, that's not what we came here to talk about, but there's an ending thought. We should like leave this after the credits, like a Marvel movie, where we've just like talked about one topic, and then at the end just tease something completely different.
Nice.
Anyway, if we're getting into composition of specialist and underdog tournaments, we've probably run our course, haven't we?
Yes, you might be right.
Anyway, it's been a pleasure. Good to chat to you again. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning back in, and we will see you next time.
Yeah, cheers, mate. See you later.